There are so many things that I don't know and I don't have answers to, but there are some things that I do know, and that I know that if a jury knew, that they would have come to a different decision. The issue with the ballistics and the gun, they would have found out that the shell casings found there didn't match the weapon that they're saying is the murder weapon. That still hasn't been brought up in any of the court hearings, you know, and that's a major, that's something I didn't know, but that one of the attorneys working on the case now told me about. And those are like fingerprints. It's something that wasn't brought up in trial, you know, and I think that the jury should have been able to hear that. Mark has already said he was tired, he didn't want to take the case. So he didn't even look, I don't even think he looked at the police report, you know. One of my neighbors said they heard gunshots at 7:30. Why weren't they brought to testify in trial, you know? I just saw that in the clemency report, you know. I never knew that. That person should have been brought to trial to testify. That was something the defense was supposed to do and never did. What I know is that Sergeant Freeze told my father when he came to get me from my parents' house that there were 2 guns in the state's possession, and the gun that I had wasn't the murder weapon. He told my father I would be back for that reason. Ron Mock, when I was first arrested and began going to court, he told us that there were 2 guns in the state's evidence, and the gun that I had wasn't the murder weapon. As far as the ballistics test coming back, saying that the gun in the state's evidence is the murder weapon, I don't know. You know, it may be, but what I know is that the gun I had the day that I left my apartment is not the murder weapon. You know, I had heard Adrian and his brother talking earlier that day, and they had mentioned something about some trouble. And Adrian had told me he was quit using drugs, and so I looked in the cabinet, and I'm just trying to confirm that he's telling me the truth about the drugs. And so I looked in the cabinet where he normally kept drugs, and there wasn't any in there, but there was this gun there, and it was unfamiliar to me. And so hearing his conversation earlier with his brother Sterling, I took it. The insurance had nothing to do with anything. I got that for a savings plan. Claudia said she told him that, you know, but it was made to be out of a big deal. You know, 6 months prior, she had talked to me about the insurance. You know, my dad had talked to me about insurance. I don't know. I don't feel like J.J. Freeze himself had anything to do with that, but somewhere in the course of things, yeah, I think the police decided, okay, well, let's not talk about this and let's, you know, build this up. You know. At that time, I know that my husband owed money to this guy he was selling drugs for. The guy is not a figment of my imagination. You know, that was real. That was going on. You know, and it had my husband so concerned at times. Sometimes we would come home and Alton would come out of his room and say, "Mom, Dad, sleep under the bed," you know, under his bed. We wouldn't see his car anywhere, but he'd be under the bed asleep, you know. So that was something that was going on. And of course, when I find out that my husband and children were murdered, that was my first thought. We were kids together, and we got married, you know, we had children together, and we were growing together. Adrian was a very loving person, sort of easily led by his older brother, but he was a very loving person. I had a lot of support. I had my first child early. My parents were very disappointed in me, but they said, okay, this happened, don't make the mistake again, you know, and they encouraged me to continue being a teenager because I was a teenager. but at the same time, they helped me to be a good mother to my son. And Adrian's mom and dad were very supportive, as was he.
It must have been tough, so young.
You know, it really wasn't, because I had my big sisters and my big brothers, and so my son had all these aunts and uncles around and grandparents. It really wasn't tough. I mean, and I don't say that to encourage teenage pregnancy. I think that I was very blessed to have the support that I did. Adrian hadn't been faithful in a marriage for several times, and on my part, after so many times, I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna do this and let him see how it feels, you know, and I did, and that wasn't a good thing on my part. So one of the things that I was gonna fix is I wasn't gonna do that anymore. Unfortunately, I had started a relationship with a guy that I'd gone to school with, and of course he was upset about that, and I wanted him to be, because I wanted him to feel what I had felt, you know. And when I say that I wanted to fix it, that's one of the things that I had done, is said cut that relationship off. And he said that he would quit doing, you know, quit running around, he would quit doing drugs, and he would quit doing illegal activity.
And you believed you just...
Yes, I did. I don't feel guilt in the sense that if I had done something differently, that it could have been prevented. I don't feel that type of guilt. Sometimes I feel that I could have said something earlier about the things that Adrian was doing, and maybe earlier it could have been prevented, or maybe not even agreed with it at first. I ask myself, what could I have done differently? You know, I do that, but not to the extent that I feel guilt about it, no. It's difficult being away from family anyway. I've always kind of been, with all of my brothers and sisters, I've always kind of been insulated, you know, and always had family around me, so it's been kind of hard not having that. And then under the cloud of guilt that I am, losing my husband and my children, that's been difficult, you know. But I just take it one day at a time, you know. You know, I cope with the support that I have, the love of my family and my friends that I have, the love that I had from my husband and my children, and just knowing my own innocence, that helps a lot, you know. I cope knowing that I have people fighting for me, that believing in me and believing that the right thing will be done, you know. You know, I dream of being there for my parents. I just think about just being there with them in their old age, and, you know, my nieces and nephews and my brothers and sisters. Going through life with them, and instead of them, you know, having to always be here for me, to be there for them when they go through things, because I know they go through a lot.
Are you tired of being on death row for so long?
You know, yeah.